Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the Grand Sapphire here at the Courtyard by Marriott. We are thrilled to have you join us for the Watchtower 2, the second edition of our series dedicated to unlocking a new vantage point on AI security and digital trust for 2026. My name is Sharuni Botheju, and I will be your host for today. And with your tea and coffee in hand, let's dive into today's proceedings. Building on the foundation of our first edition, today we gather because the battlefield has shifted. Modern cybersecurity is no longer just about reacting to incidents. It is about continuously managing exposure, strengthening resilience, and building lasting digital trust. Through continuous threat exposure management, we are moving from fragmented visibility to a proactive, intelligence-led defense. Our goal tonight is to show you how to strengthen your security posture and achieve digital resilience by identifying real exposure early and acting with context, as how a watchtower serves as that constant vantage point, a soldier providing continuous oversight across the digital enterprise. To set the stage for this evening's proceedings, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Mr. Chathura Edirisooriya. Chathura is the Vice President of Pre-Sales and Solution Architecture at NCINGA. He is a seasoned technology professional with over 20 years of industry experience. He previously worked with Cisco before joining NCINGA and has served both global and local customers across diverse markets. Throughout his career, Chathura has led and advised on complex technological solutions, enabling organizations to drive business transformation, improve operational efficiency, and enhance customer experience. His exposure to global enterprises, combined with a strong understanding of local market dynamics, allows him to effectively bridge the strategy and execution. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to Chathura Edirisooriya.
Good evening, everyone. Sharuni, thanks for the generous introduction. There are so many buzzwords today. How about the customer experience? Is it a key factor in your organization? I would say it's not I'm saying, everyone says it's a key competitive advantage over any other. So there are different organizations have different expectations, and customers, there are different expectations as well. How you measure the customer experience? Whether you are looking at the local context or the global context, how the customers are differentiating their expectation. Any thoughts? So they are benchmarking with their experience. Is it true? When you go to a hotel, you look at the service, the food, the quality of the environment. Based on that, you are benchmarking. When you go to another hotel, you are looking at whether the same standards that hotel is maintaining. Customers are like that because there are different e-commerce sites globally they're accessing, different mobile apps accessing. Sad part is you have to maintain that standard with, if this is a local context, you have to maintain the same standard. Whether you are a bank or any other organization, that's the expectation they are looking at. So this is a very familiar screen for most of the BFSI sector and some of the organization as well, right? So what happened when you see that? The firefighting start. You are creating war rooms. You are invited to a networking team, system team, data application. All the teams are in the same room and try to find where the issue is. This is how you are going to do, right? Then everyone's trying to finger at each other. Maybe this is network related, maybe this is application, maybe the databases. That's how it looks like, right? Sometimes it will take hours, days, weeks to solve that. Do you think customers has patience to wait that long? Do you think yes or no? Why we are struggling? We don't have the visibility. If there's a failure, we don't know whether it's related to network, application, system, maybe the service provider in that case. We don't have the visibility. What happened? This is a kind of a market research few companies have done. 30% of the customers leaving after one bad experience. 60 to 70% of the customers leaving after 2 to 3 negative interaction. And 90% of them never give you the feedback or they are not complaining. Then what happened? You don't know what is the reason. Why customers are leaving and moving to another, maybe the application or another bank. You don't know the reason. Revenue-wise, this is the impact globally. It's close around 3.7 to 3.6 million globally. Organizations are losing revenue because of the bad customer experience. And when it's come to the US context, because there are different parameters for each country, when it's come to the US context, close to around $1 trillion they are losing because of the bad customer experience. Do you know how many customers are leaving your organization? Or what is the revenue impact? Do you have visibility right now? Anyone? Can you say that this month will this number of customers, our revenue maybe 1 million, 2 million, 3 million rupees? Do we have that insight with us? Yeah, that's a challenge. So we need a solution for that, right? First the visibility, and if a tool or a solution can give, this is the revenue loss for your organization. It's give more insight to you. And the other thing is this philosophy of networking, system, database, applications team has to change. Because it's directly, you are contributing to your revenue of your organization. If network fails, it directly impacts the revenue. Same thing, application also the same thing. Now you have to think in differently. You are part of the business. If something goes wrong, it directly impacts the organization and the revenue. So what Splunk does? Most of the time what you are doing is, you are doing reactive analysis, not proactive. Why? Customer has to complain, then you realize, oh, there's an issue. We have to attend and try to solve that. How about Splunk will give you the proactive analysis. Before application fails, if Splunk indicate that maybe the latency ratio is going high, have a look on that. Maybe you set the benchmark for 5 milliseconds. After 6 milliseconds, Splunk can give the visibility, maybe can show you a color, kind of amber color. Your application is not healthy. Maybe after 10 milliseconds, application will fail. But you know proactively, before customer complain, you know we have to attend that. The second one is, everyone's working in silos, as I discussed earlier. Separate network, application, separate teams, right? Sometimes application team doesn't know what happened to the network. They don't have the visibility. Some organizations want to kind of have them in separate silos because due to some of the security concerns as well. Okay. So what Splunk gives you a single pane of glass, end-to-end visibility from application to the infrastructure to the system. Entire visibility it can give you. The third one, security threats. There are agentic AIs and so many things. It can detect immediately. So if you detect a threat immediately, you are protecting your brand. You are protecting your image. The last one. You don't know sometimes why the customer's leaving. Maybe they are not using that application. Maybe they are moving to a different application, especially on the BFSI sector. You don't know, right? As I told you earlier, 90% of them not giving any feedback. Oh, they are not complaining. How you track that? If tool can give you the entire user journey and figure it out where the issue is, at least you know why customers are leaving or why customers are not using our app. It may be 1 to 3 milliseconds delay. That's a differentiator Splunk can bring to the table. Lastly, why Splunk? They are the Gartner leader when it's come to the observability plus SIEM. There's only one organization, I think, in the earth, right, has that capability. The second one is it will give you the unified platform, end-to-end visibility. The third one is it's part of Cisco. You experience Cisco, the reliability, everything, right? Now it's part of Cisco. And beauty is, if you are using Cisco infrastructure, it can integrate it seamlessly. There's a different architecture for that. I think Vasant will explain you later that how Cisco and Splunk work together. Then we have a good OEM, vendor. How about a partner? Why NCINGA? We are operating 18 plus countries around the globe. What it means to you? We have the experience in mature markets, serving to the customers in US, Australia, New Zealand. We have the experience, how they're looking at the customer experience, what are the tools they are using, what are the best practices they are using. That insight we can translate into local context, and we can share that experience with you. The second one, definitely engineering excellence. That it will come with that global presence, right? When we serve into the mature markets, it's very tough. Working with those customers, we should improve our knowledge, we should have our certification up to date. So those are the things, even they are evaluating each and every engineer when they are awarding, before they are awarding the project. Then we have to uplift our skills. Then the same knowledge, the same resources, we can share with you to do your projects as well. Third one, end-to-end technology that we can support. Whether it's infrastructure, networking, data center, application, data and AI, we have in-house resources. If you take Splunk observability, there are several touch points when we try to deploy that. Application, infrastructure, there are. So we can help you on this. You have to select the correct partner and the correct OEM. It's like a marriage. It's a journey we are talking about, right? When you are selecting your partner, there are several criteria we are looking at. In the middle of the marriage, yeah, it's a possibility, but there are different consequences coming, right? If you want to stop that. Same like here. It's a journey where you can select a partner and middle of that journey, you can say, this is not the correct partner for this digital journey or the improving the customer experience. You can't do like that. It will directly impact your revenue as well as maybe the brand reputation as well. So you have to correctly select the correct partner. So you have an OEM and you have a correct partner. We would like to share our experience, depth of knowledge, what we have in the industry to make a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chathura. Now, to truly master security in 2026, we must bridge the gap between simple detection and deep AI driven observability to achieve digital resilience. To lead us through our first course session focusing on security, we are honored to have a guest who is a true veteran in the field, Mr. Vasant Kumar, Director, Solution Engineering India and South Asia for Splunk at Cisco. Prior to joining Splunk, Vasant was responsible for customer success at Guavas, a Thales company across EMEA and APAC, managing delivery of big data and analytics and AI/ML solutions. With over 22 years of experience in the security and big data field, Vasant has been instrumental in architecting wide variety of solutions for customers from designing and delivering layer 2, layer 3 networks, endpoint management, web security, data security, SIM, application security, and analytical solutions for large enterprise, public sector, telecom, railway, and airline industry. He has performed a wide variety of customer-facing roles from sales engineer, channel sales engineer, regional product manager, to customer success manager. He is currently based off Mumbai and is an alumnus of the MIT Sloan School of Management. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to welcome Mr. Vasant Kumar to the stage.
A warm welcome and a very good evening. I know all of you all are very, how do I say, professionals, very busy professionals. You have a day-to-day life, but thanks for taking out this time today. And I'm really excited to be here today in front of you all. It's going to be a crash course. I'm going to actually cram up everything that I know about Splunk to you all over the next hour or so, 60 minutes. I'll try to keep it within 60 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and cram everything in there. But yeah, thanks for Chathura for setting up the stage. I'm going to take it from there. And what we're going to be talking over the next 60 minutes or so is about digital resilience. And I'll come to what digital resilience is and why am I here on stage talking about digital resilience. So yeah, from an introduction perspective, I think that thanks again for the great introduction, but I lead the solutions engineering for Splunk within Cisco now, which is now a Cisco company. And before I start off in terms of what Splunk does, I just want to kindly give you the agenda. So we're going to start with the digital resilience journey for what we do, what Cisco does in terms of AI. And then we're going to look into the platform components that basically form Splunk. And then we're going to go into the SecOps, which is the SIM, SOAR, UBA kind of solution. Then we're going to have Gayan from NCINGA talk about how they manage security operations for their customers. And then I'm going to end it with observability in the age of AI. So a lot of learning for you all today. But yeah, I mean, when post the event, we'll be the whole Splunk team is here from India. We'll be hanging around. So if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. So the first question that I always get asked by a lot of customers is, Cisco spent $28 billion on Splunk. Where does Splunk fit in the Cisco portfolio, right? What have you done with Splunk? And that's the first question that I get asked with a lot of customers. So this is where I want to give a view of where does Splunk sit into the Cisco solution portfolio. So Cisco has got 3 solution buckets that Cisco predominantly deals with, right? And those of you who are already Cisco customers should get a fair idea about what these are. So the first one that you see on the top left corner is AI-ready data centers. This is where you've got the whole data center networking portfolio of Cisco, enterprise networks, ACI, UCS, all of that basically falls under that bucket. The next bucket that you see on the right is future-proofing workplaces. This is where Cisco deals with everything that does with identity and access management. So you've got ZTNA, Duos, SSE, Umbrella, all those that fit in there. And then you've got the third bucket below, which is digital resilience. And that's where Splunk actually is positioned, along with a few other Cisco solutions that kind of collaborate on the digital resilience journey with Splunk. And that's the bucket that we're going to focus today on, right, over the next hour or so. And end-to-end, what you have is the securing the global connectivity, which is done by the firewall portfolio, the NBAD portfolio that Cisco has. And now we've got everything accelerated with the AI assistance that Cisco and Splunk are launching together within their tools. So that's predominantly what the Cisco portfolio is and where Splunk resides. Now, why digital resilience, right? A very simplistic example for you on digital resilience is when you want to go, let's say you want to go, I mean, now I know you've got one single highway all the way up to Kandy, but when I visited, and I was talking to some of the NCINGA team members, is when I visited Sri Lanka, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I took my family all the way up to Kandy, and it used to be this nice hilly road, and it should take about, what, 3.5 hours or something to reach Kandy? So ideally, what you would do in a situation where you've got multiple roads leading to a destination today is you would pick up Google Maps, and what you would try to do is find the shortest route there to get you quicker there, right? So the fact is, that's where you're building resilience. Resilience in terms of there are multiple routes to reach the end goal. You want to get there to the fastest goal. So the way we define digital resilience is the ability for your organization to be securely up and running in the face of disruptions. We cannot avoid disruptions, right? Chathura threw all those numbers out there on the screen. The fact is there are disruptions that happen every day, right? Microsoft Cloud Services gets affected every month, right? Cloudflare has an outage every 3 weeks. So there are going to be disruptions. The idea is how can we reduce the mean time to identify a disruption, and how can we reduce the mean time to recover from a disruption? And that's all what digital resilience is all about, right? Now, there were some numbers thrown, but this is a survey that Splunk did with Oxford Economics back in 2025. Digital resilience from a challenge perspective, though it looks, the numbers don't look big, it looks at about 200 million, which is only the tip of the iceberg. The actual problem is 400 billion. That's something that doesn't get reported, right? A lot of outages don't go out. Yeah, you report what you want to report, but the rest of it is basically hidden, right? So the idea is that how can you actually, it is a big problem, right? And the reason that it is a big problem is why we are all here in this room to hear about how can you go about and identify and resolve this problem. Now the question is, why is it such a big problem to be digitally resilient? And the reason being is, and we from Cisco now, so we got to show network maps. But one of the key reasons is, this is how an enterprise as of today looks like. We've evolved over the age. If I go all the way to the left, what you have on the left are your consumers, right? So on the left of your screen, what you see is, you've got, anyone and someone in this room is basically, having a service that is used by some mobile user. You might be a bank, you might be a telco, you might be a supermarket store, whatever you are, you have a consumer who's a mobile user. You've got a consumer who's sitting in his home office trying to access, it might be your internet banking page, or trying to shop online, or trying to book an Uber, whatever it might be. And then you've got your own offices, which are distributed. You've got your branch offices, and those in the manufacturing space might have factories and cameras and sensors and all of that. The bottom line being is, you've got various consumers of the services that you provide. So all the way up right are the services that you provide, all the way up left are the consumers. Now, one very interesting fact to note is that the consumers access your services over an unknown network, which is the last mile. Why do I call it unknown? For the fact being is, if you are a bank and you're providing internet banking, you don't know if the customer is going to use a mobile connection from Dialog Or is he going to use a broadband connection from SLT? You don't know, you don't care. All you're doing is providing a mobile banking service. So you've got an unknown network, and then once the traffic enters your data center from that unknown network, then that data center is owned by you. So that's a known network to you. But because of the complexity of these unknown and known networks, and as well as the complexity within your own data centers, you no longer are sitting on-prem, right? You have services that run hybrid, part of it on-prem, part of it on cloud. You have some services that are purely on cloud. You have some services that are basically SaaS, right? If you're subscribing to Salesforce or Zscaler or whatever, or any other solution that's predominantly SaaS oriented. So the fact here is when you have such complex and diverse environments, there's always going to be complexity. And with complexity arrives silos of data. And this is the biggest challenge we have today. I mean, I'm very sure pretty much that all of y'all have been in a room during an outage, which we love to call it what we call as war rooms. You know, I don't know if you're actually at war, but they call it war rooms because you like to sit down and actually punch the firewall administrator who's sitting next to you. But the fact of the matter here is you're in these war rooms and the network guy is trying to go and point fingers at the IT team. The IT team is pointing at the security team. The security team says, hey, I didn't develop that app. It's the application team, right? And this is invariably all the situations we've been under, right? And this goes on for hours, sometimes days. And after that, you anyways try to resolve the issue. And then eventually what happens is your management is then pushing you or your boss is pushing you for an RCA. And that's when you again start looking at each other's faces saying, hey, what is an RCA? How do I get to an RCA, right? So the question is, what would happen if you could harness all those data points together across the unknown networks, across the known networks, and bring it into a platform that could then help you, the outage happened from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. If you could just get all the logs from everything that outage had and then draw and arrive at a conclusion, that would be much more easier, right? So that's where Cisco today, with the acquisition of Splunk and some of the other components in its portfolio, is uniquely poised to basically give you a complete visibility of not just the applications, the security, but also the unknown networks. So 3 main capabilities that we provide under the digital resilience bucket, which is predominantly network assurance, application observability, and security. So all these 3 put together, and I'm going to double click on each one of these in terms of through the course of today. So the idea being is that whole network that I showed you, no matter it being owned networks, unknown networks, cloud infra, your on-prem infra, threat intelligence from third parties, CERT, Sri Lanka, whatever, your user accesses, your applications, if you could bring all that data into a single platform, which we now call as the Cisco Data Fabric, which is nothing but Splunk with some more capabilities, and I'll talk about that when we talk about the platform. And it would be nice if you could do all the 3 operations, network operations, IT operations, and security operations on one single platform. And this is what, to be honest with you, with all the uncertainty in the world, you've got wars everywhere. India just had a war last year. The Russia-Ukraine war. There's, Venezuela, I don't know when it's going to go into a war, but it was in a war state. And then you have Israel already in war. So the fact is, with such unpredictability across, the fact is organizations are now trying to look for something called as a ROC, R-O-C. That's a new terminology, something that you take back today when you head back home, is you had a SOC, S-O-C, you had a NOC, N-O-C. The new age is a ROC, R-O-C, which we call as Resilience Operations Centers. And the idea of being able to do network, IT, and security operations all on a unified platform is what an ROC is all about. And to be honest with you, there are already mandates from the central bank in India to start pushing all banks to start developing ROCs, right? So I just a heads up in terms of what an ROC is. So let's try and knock down those three aspects that I spoke about: assurance, observability, and security operations. First thing first, I spoke about unknown networks, right? How do you measure the user experience on an unknown network, right? I'm using XYZ bank's internet banking over a dialogue 5G or a 4G network. I'm unable to log into that internet banking page. Is it the bank's problem? Is it my 5G network problem? Am I in a blind spot? How do you know all of that? So that's where Cisco did an acquisition a couple of years ago. It's called Thousand Eyes. I don't know if all of you all have heard of Thousand Eyes. So it's actually written as 1,000 eyes, right? So that's the name of it. So Thousand Eyes predominantly allows you to do what we call as synthetic monitoring of unknown networks. Predominantly what it means is it will simulate a traffic towards your web portal as an external user and tell you key KPIs like jitter, packet loss, latency, depending on the kind of BGP routes that the internet takes, which is not under your control. And those KPIs can then be fed into the Splunk platform, right? The question is, how do we do it? Well, it's simple. We set up POPs, point of presences, right? So we don't have a point of presence yet in Sri Lanka, but that's a good conversation that I'm having with our partners, NCINGA, as well as telcos here, where we want to set up a point of presence, right? But right now we have 60 point of presences with all the three different service providers in India, as well as AWS and Google and Microsoft, sorry. So all the three of them. So the fact is, it's like sending a ping and trying to understand whether that ping reached the other end or not, right? And this is something that Thousand Eyes does. So very effectively what it does is it draws this whole map, and I've actually seen it in practice. We've done it live on stage for some events where we've taken consent from a customer saying, hey, can we, launch a scan on your website? And then we actually show them on the live network how the accessibility to their website is. So Thousand Eyes is the one that actually helps you eliminate blind spots on your unknown networks, right? So that's where we cover the unknown side of it. This was a live incident that actually happened with one of the banks in India when we were at war with our neighbor. This happened sometime in May last year. There was a huge flood of DDoS attacks over the internet on these banks, right? And every bank today publishes its mobile banking and internet banking on an internet gateway. The bank that was actually using Thousand Eyes, we notified them of their whole internet pipe being choked because of this DDoS attack. And what they could invariably do is just flip over to the standby link, which was not facing a DDoS attack. And then the services were not, they could restore back the services under 4 minutes, as compared to a bank that was not using Thousand Eyes, and it took them at least 2 hours to isolate where the problem was, like get into a room and try and figure out where the problem is. So this was actually something that happened live during May last year when we had a flood of attacks. But the question again is, what if the unknown network is not the problem, right? Now we step back into your enterprise, your infrastructure, your data center. And what if the actual issue is not on the unknown side, but within your data center? How can Cisco help there? So that is where we basically look at observability, helping you try to identify those application bottlenecks that happen within your enterprise, right? So the key aspect is trying to look at application response times, trying to look at, are these servers, are the CPU utilization in a servers high? Are they running out of disk space? Trying to monitor all those services. That's something where the observability comes in. So on the observability solution side for Cisco, you've got those two boxes on the lower right. The center one, which is the Splunk Observability Cloud, which allows you to do observability, which is predominantly application performance monitoring, infrastructure monitoring, real user monitoring, and digital experience monitoring for your cloud native infrastructures. What I mean by cloud native is predominantly that infrastructure that's born on the cloud. So, using microservices, containerization, all of that. What if you don't have an infrastructure that's born on cloud? What if it is legacy, monolithic, on-premise, 3-tier? Not a problem. We've got Splunk App Dynamics that helps you do it. So Splunk App Dynamics can do the same capabilities of APM, of infrastructure monitoring, of real user monitoring, all of that, the digital experience monitoring, user journey flow monitoring, all of that from an on-premise kind of an experience. It's the portfolio that side that does it. We already spoke about 1000 eyes. What it now allows you to do is with the Splunk platform, you can then take all the data sets that each of these tools monitor, bring it into the platform, and then run AI ops on it. What is AI ops? The capability to basically do predictive analytics, to do outlier detection, to be able to do forecasting, right? All these capabilities come in with the AI ops that is also known as Splunk IT Service Intelligence, or ITSI that we call it, right? So this is where the Splunk platform fits from an observability perspective, with the AI ops layer on top, with all the individual solutions feeding into it. Now, just a point of note here is that Splunk AI ops doesn't necessarily work only when you have all these three below. You might use any other kind of observability tools, Grafana, Prometheus, whatever you've got, free tools, whatever they might be. Splunk AI ops can still work with all of them. So Splunk platform is absolutely agnostic. Don't get it wrong that we're trying to push all of this together. It doesn't necessarily happen like that. If you've already invested in certain solutions in certain areas, we can always act as that AI ops layer on top to give you that additional level of visibility, right? So what does the AI ops layer actually allow you to do? So the first thing that it does is actually draws what we call as a service view, right? And so this whole graph that you see is a service view. And these are actual dashboards from Splunk AI ops. What a service view does is today, how many of you can walk into your, if you're a bank, how many of you can walk into your office in the morning and just say, what is the health score of my mobile banking? Do you get to see the health score of your mobile banking? Probably not, right? So the service view is predominantly breaking down what we call a service decomposition. But a service view is breaking down a logical service, which is mobile banking, and breaking it down into all the individual components that run mobile banking. You might have 15, 20 web servers. You might have 10 odd middlewares. You might have 20 database servers behind. You'll have a SAN switch. You'll have a SAN behind the SAN switch. You'll have network components, load balancers. The fact is, any one of those components either overutilized or not functioning well is an impact on your mobile banking. And that whole service view is what Splunk AI Ops allows you to do. So you can actually have dashboards on Splunk AI Ops where you come in the morning and it tells you mobile banking is in green, internet banking is in orange, and some other banking is in red. So it actually gives you that view based on all the service topology that it has collected and built, right? And if you've got a RAID failure on your SAN, it will tell you that since the IOPS on your SAN has actually gone low, it will tell you that your mobile banking is going to suffer, right? So that's the kind of view that you get. So the idea of being able to detect end-to-end, not just looking at fragmented pieces in your network, able to detect end-to-end, investigate the problem as to what is the cause of it, and then being able to respond. This is something that we give you end-to-end visibility with the various integrations that we have built along the platform, right? And not that we just sell this to you. We've already migrated out of the 4 data centers that Cisco runs globally. One of the data centers is already migrated end-to-end on Splunk monitoring, right? So we not only just sell you the product, but we use it within our own enterprise to monitor our own data centers, right? So this is a case study where all the Cisco support teams are actually monitored using Splunk in terms of the performance efficiency that they have on answering customer calls. Now, no matter how complex or the network is, you looked at the network, you've looked at the application, but what about security, right? And that is where, even from a security standpoint, Splunk actually, the same platform can also be used to perform all the security capabilities that you would expect within an enterprise. So the good part is you don't need to set up separate platforms. And I'll talk this through when I talk about the Splunk platform. You don't need to have two different platforms, one for IT operations, one for network operations, and a third one for security operations. It's one single platform, but you can have all those role-based access controls and all of that in place just to make sure that the network guys don't see what the security guys are doing, but all of it can be achieved on a single platform, right? So when we talk about SIEM and XDR capabilities, all of that bundled together within the security portfolio within Cisco is what we provide in the security space. So the idea being is, hey, look, you've detected, XDR has detected a threat. It's an unknown device that's trying to access Wi-Fi through a Meraki access point. You can immediately go ahead and then quarantine that endpoint to make it non-operational on the network. So all these kind of capabilities and actions to take is something that can be done through the security portfolio. So fundamentally, the advantage that Cisco is uniquely providing in this space is not just observability or not just security, but the combination of network assurance, observability, and security, all the three together, which is an end-to-end visibility that you would want as a customer. The second part is it's a platform approach. What I mean by platform approach is it's one single platform that can do all of these capabilities. I will not tell you to buy this separately for IT, separately for network. Just buy it once, keep using it over and over again. And as I said, fully open. You don't have to buy all the other components to run each one of them. They all can independently run on their own, or you can integrate with any third-party tools that you've already got in place. And AI is something that all the assistants that are baked in into all of these tools, right? So that's what predominantly makes it uniquely poised. So we got assistants for AI assistants for network, AI assistants for observability, and AI assistants for security. And I'll talk through these when we go through the next slides, right? So when I look at the journey, this is the I would say the maturity path on all the three aspects, from an assurance perspective, from an observability perspective, and from a security perspective, that we can partner with you all the way through your journey, right from foundational visibility all the way up to having unified workloads within your enterprise. So this is something that we provide end to end. So that was just a brief on digital resilience. What I'm going to do next is quickly get on to the Splunk platform, right? And I spoke about the Splunk platform, but I just wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit more in depth on terms of the Splunk platform, right? Now, we all know that AI is here to stay. We might like it, we might not like it, but we have to embrace it. Everyone's, at least it's helped me. I was struggling hard to learn Python coding, but now I don't need to, because I just go on ChatGPT and ask it for a bunch of Python code, and it gives me, and then I just start using it, right? So vibe coding is already something that's in place. But the fact is, with the rapid growth of AI, there's also a rapid growth of data that's coming in, right? It's becoming more and more difficult for organizations to manage and handle that data. And the second part with the large amount of data is the complexity of data that it brings in, right? So as I said, if you were doing network operations separately, if you were doing say observability separately and security separately, you again managing data in silos. Nobody is talking to each other. There's no collaboration that's ever happening on that data. And this is something that's going to cause a limitation as you start embracing AI, right? Because AI is not going to look at data from a security standpoint or an observability standpoint, right? I mean, when you look at large language models, they predominantly give you answers for everything. So the fact is, how are you going to embrace everything on a unified platform? And reusability of that content, right? You ingest data once, but can you reuse that data across IT operational use cases, security operational use cases, and network operational use cases? How can you keep reusing that data over and over again? And that's the whole idea of why you need a unified platform. And of course, we looked at the potential challenges. There are security risks, there are IT operational downtime risks, and there are network downtime risks. So all of it come in it, right? So what we at Cisco did was that when we looked at the AI era and we said, oh, this AI era basically needs something in terms of building AI resilience for AI, from AI built code, and something that's embedded with AI, right? And that's the whole reason for us to actually launch in the AI area, in the AI resilience era for AI, a Cisco Data Fabric. Now, though we call it the Cisco Data Fabric, it's not a product. All it is a solution that actually encompasses Splunk along with it, right? So it's Splunk bundled as what we call as a data fabric. Splunk is one of the key components, but there are more functionalities to the data fabric. And I'll talk about that as we go along. Now, one of the key aspects that a lot of other vendors don't talk about is when you want to, I think the most simplest example, and I just gave it to a customer today, when you go to a store and you buy a phone, right? What kind of a phone do you ask? You either ask for an Apple phone or an Android phone, right? The fact of the matter here is, when you buy this phone, there are some basic capabilities that are built into the phone, right? You are allowed to call on the phone. You can configure your emails, messaging, all of that, right? But the phones never come pre-installed with Facebook and WhatsApp and all of that, right? So the fundamental aspect is you bring the phone home, and then depending on your use, you then start deploying Facebook or WhatsApp on the phone, and then start using those capabilities on the phone. But what does your phone become? It becomes a platform, right? So your phone is a platform. When you go on a holiday with your wife and kids, you take photographs, and then you upload on Facebook, and then you don't come back home, and then you realize, oh, I forgot to upload on Instagram, I need to go back to my holiday again. You don't do that, right? Because the phone acts as a platform, the phone stores your data, the phone has the photographs, you can come back home, you can upload on Facebook, you can upload on Instagram, you can send it to somebody on WhatsApp. That's the whole idea of a platform. In terms of Cisco's terminology, we call it the data fabric. The idea being is, no matter what your data source is, the ability to bring all of that data, and Cisco is uniquely poised in this era to do it. None of the other cloud vendors actually allow you to bring anything that's on-prem into their cloud. They depend on third-party connectors. But here, everything is owned by Cisco, managed by Cisco, right? So the fact is, the capability to ingest any data sources, it might be Cisco data sources, non-Cisco data sources, bring those data sources into the data fabric, do manage that data, and I'll talk about what management of that data is, manage the data, federate the data, I'll also explain what federation is, and then collaborate that data. Collaborate in the sense that use that data if you want to build ML models on your data, in your data center, or you want to send it to any third-party systems, or you basically want to set up an MCP server for an agentic AI capability. All those collaborations is something that the platform allows you to give. And once you've done this, you can then use that data for any kind of use case. It might be security, observability, both, or it might be any custom use case that you want to, right? So when I talk about observability, you will see some of our customers are, customers like Domino's Pizza and Pizza Hut, and even, which is the third one? Papa John's. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. So Papa John's, yeah. So these are all pizza companies, but they actually use Splunk, right? Domino's actually uses it to actually give you recommendations on their app based on what pizzas you ordered last time, right? So all that runs on Splunk. So Splunk is not just limited to security and observability. It can do a lot much more. So when we look at the data fabric, the idea being is, as I said, ingest machine data, do processing of that data on the edge, that is when you are ingesting, or on the cloud. So Splunk also has a cloud instance that we run out of India. And then do federated searching and analytics. So what is federated search and analytics, right? One thing that we've realized over a period of time is a lot of customers have come to Splunk and complained about the fact that, hey, you guys like to take all the data in and then you guys like to go us and charge a big bill to us, right? So we've actually heard customers back, and what we've done over a period of time is now given you capabilities to keep the data where it resides. And don't ingest it in Splunk, and we will still give you capabilities to search on that data. That is what we actually mean by federated search and analytics. The first step towards that is we brought in support for Amazon S3 and Amazon Security Lake. What that means is you can actually have data dumped directly into S3, still use Splunk to search that data without you having to pay for ingesting that data, right? Classical use case, you want to run a SIM, right, on Splunk, and you just want to basically ingest whatever data sources to detect threats. But the central bank tells you, oh, from a compliance perspective, you need to keep all this data for 7 years. Why would you want to bring all of that 7-year data, which is purely compliance data, into Splunk? Keep it into S3, which is much more cheaper, but Splunk will still allow you to go and search into S3. Right? So we launched this capability with S3 and Amazon Security Lake. We are extending it to Snowflake. We are extending it to Kafka, sorry, not Kafka, but Spark, which will make it easier for us to integrate with any data source that uses Spark. And then we are also extending it to Azure Blob. So as we start, having all these integrations in place, the bottom line is don't bring data into Splunk and pay for it. Take Splunk towards where your data is. That's the whole idea of federated search and analytics, right? And finally, this is something that even before the whole AI boom occurred, Splunk already had AI capabilities. So you could actually run ML models, you could develop ML models, all of that on Splunk. So all those AI native capabilities were something that existed in Splunk right from 2015. It's just that not a lot of customers thought about it, used it, but those capabilities were always there. So the capabilities of actually running ML ops, like training models, testing models, bringing data in, running those models in operation against your data, doing predictive analytics, all that is something that already existed in Splunk. And now we've extended those capabilities by actually having Splunk behave like an MCP server. So if you're all familiar with MCP, Model Context Protocol, Splunk now supports MCP, and you can use any agentic AI client to ask NLP questions on the data that's stored in Splunk. So that's another new feature that we kind of launched with the platform. So unified platform, as I said, allows you to do a lot of use cases on it with key capabilities of data management and federation, which are the two capabilities that I spoke about. And when we speak about massaging the data, like managing the data, and I showed you managing as one of the key capabilities, you can actually go ahead and filter on the data, normalize the data, mask certain fields in the data which are PII, enrich the data with any third-party sources, aggregate certain data, and all of this is done predominantly for end-to-end monitoring. So, and once you do all this with the data, you can then send it to any flavor of Splunk. So Splunk today is the only platform which I can proudly say can run on cloud, can run on-prem, and can run hybrid. We are not just only cloud only or on-premise only. We can run in either ways. The functionalities remain the same, the capabilities remain the same, the code is the same, right? So you can choose to deploy Splunk within your data center with the same set of capabilities that I spoke. You can choose to deploy the platform on cloud. When I mean on cloud is self-managed, so you can actually choose to deploy it like buy it from Google Marketplace or Azure or AWS Marketplace and run it there. Or you could choose to get a fully functional Splunk platform as a SaaS from India or Singapore, right? So all the three capabilities exist, and you can use it in hybrid manners also if you need. And of course, the whole federation, as I said about, no matter what the data is, take Splunk towards the data. Right now, as I said, we have S3 and Security Lake support to remotely read the data that's already stored there. And we are bringing further cloud support, which was announced last year in October. So we plan to bring all the other Snowflakes and Azure and Spark into place. And from the AI ML capabilities, three fundamentals that we use for deploying anything from an AI ML perspective. One is our research team creates domain and Splunk specific AI content for our security tools and observability tools, which comes as an update to you as a customer. The second is the human in the loop and trusted, what I mean by that is a human being whom we call as a citizen data scientist can actually sit on the platform and develop his own ML models, as I said, run them and choose to deploy them and execute them on the data. So that's something that's human. And open and extensible is, if you've got data scientists in your team, and data scientists predominantly like to use tools like TensorFlow or Jupyter Notebooks to develop their own models, yeah, we are okay with that. You want to use agentic AI clients to connect to our Splunk platform? Yeah, we are okay with that. So all of these are something that the platform gives you capabilities to kind of work with. So no matter what the data, the platform allows you to search on the data, do ML capabilities on the data, visualize the data, create your dashboards on the data, and then create alert on the data. So this is just pure platform. Again, I'm just talking about your phone. I have not even come to the point of installing a WhatsApp or a Facebook, right? This is just the phone. Now, what can you do with all that data that you collect on the platform? Wide variety of use cases, ranging from security to IT operations, to network operations, to DevOps. All of these use cases can be delivered out of a unified platform. So you don't have to keep buying different platforms across these different set of use cases that you've got. And of course, we've proven ourselves over and over again, wide variety of customers. I think the most classical customer that I like to bring up over and over again, because I'm a big F1 fan. Any F1 fans in the house? Okay, so if you know the McLaren team, when a McLaren race car is on the track, it is monitored real time, whichever track it is. You know, it might be a Malaysian Grand Prix or an Australian Grand Prix. When the McLaren F1 car is on the track, the McLaren F1 car's statistics are monitored centrally out of a Splunk instance deployed in UK. And real-time data is actually sent to the team that actually develops the car back in UK. And they real-time send information back to the pit crew in terms of what's gone wrong with the car, whether it's, whether you need some tuning and stuff like that. So all of that is done on a McLaren car. So that's something that's classical real-time example. It can't get more real-time than this, right? You don't want to have Oscar Piastri losing a race. So that's the whole idea about what we do in terms of real-time capabilities. A lot of the Olympic Games, the Paris Olympics, the LA Olympics that's going to be held, all of that monitoring happens on Splunk. So just a few idea around where all Splunk is used across the globe. So we clear on the platform. Any questions before I quickly touch upon the next app, which is security? Any questions around the platform, right? If you want, I'll be around, and you feel free to go ahead and ask me questions. Now, quickly just shifting gears, I spoke about the platform, which was your phone. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you what happens when you deploy a security app on the platform. So as I said, Splunk runs like your phone. We have apps. We have an app store. The app store is called splunkbase.splunk.com. You can actually go on splunkbase.splunk.com. You have more than 2,800 apps that are available. Free apps, by the way, but this one is paid because this is the SIEM app, right? Couple of things that we've done, and predominantly in terms of addressing real-world SIM market challenges. First thing first is we know how a day in the life of a SOC analyst is, right? You're literally buried in alerts, one alert after the other, and the fact is, when you want to look at SIM, SOAR, UBA, UEBA, all of these capabilities, you don't want to have disconnected tool sets. You don't want to be jumping between screens in terms of doing it, right? And I'll talk about all the capabilities that we've got. When you want to essentially run threat hunting, you don't want to go to a different tool and do threat hunting. You would want to do everything under one single UI. And the fact is, security is always an understaffed and an underskilled team. No matter how much you try to bring them up to speed, you've got people who quit. So how can you keep up to the kind of skills that you need on the security space? And I'll address what Splunk is doing there. And when we did a security research in 2025, there were already some cracks that were showing up, right? We interviewed a bunch of CISOs and CIOs, and what we got to know is that 66% of them still had a breach, right? 46% of the teams were still spending time managing multiple tools, and of course, 32% didn't have the right skill set to be actually sitting there in the SOC. So those were the statistics, but why a lot of SOCs also tend to fail is predominantly around all these points that we have highlighted here on the screen, right? I don't want to discuss all of them because they are case to case, depending on what kind of pains that a customer has gone through. But ideally, it all comes down to the flexibility that the Splunk platform provides. The capability to deploy, if you've got a SIM from Microsoft, yeah, it works excellently with all the Microsoft tools. Try to bring an Oracle database into it and try to do correlation out of it is going to take you some amount of pain. So the question is, each of these tool sets are very good in terms of what they inherently are born out of, but Splunk was born out of an agnostic environment. And that's what kind of gives it that agnostic behavior in terms of reacting to a lot of threats that we see, right? Now, when you look at a SOC, right, and this is something that when I have conversations with customers, and I say, hey, how big is your SOC team? Oh, I have 3 guys. I said, 3 guys, and what do they do? Oh, there's an L1, there's an L2, and L3, and what does the L3 do? Oh, he looks at what the L2 does. What the L2 does? Oh, he looks at what the L1 does. But the fact of the matter here is, you need to have different functions. And when you want to keep up to threats, these are all the functions that actually go in a SOC. When you look at when I look at, really matured customers, they have a SIM engineering team in place. They basically have detection engineering. They have a threat hunting team in place. Because what happens is, though you might go ahead and deploy rules, those rules need to be, the efficacy of the rules need to be tested constantly. How do you test the efficacy of the rules? You basically need to have a threat hunting team that here tells you, hey, you missed this, right? And then you need to go back in time, right? Of course, AI is going to help you ease all of that because you can now start asking questions, hey, have I missed anything? And AI will tell you, yes, you've missed this, right? That's something that we are trying to bring in to reduce the skill sets. But at the end of the day, you still need a human to interpret the outcome of AI, right? I have not seen anyone who blindly depends on an output from ChatGPT, right? You still need to go ahead and verify whether it's right or wrong, right? So the fact of the matter here is hallucinations do happen in AI. That's why you need human in the loop. But bottom line is, when you want to drive a unified threat detection, investigation, and response within a SOC, these are all the capabilities that you would need. You might have one guy doing both of them. Yes, it all depends on the skill sets that he's got. And that's the reason why we kind of decided that it's time to reimagine what an analyst would do within a SOC to ease the fatigue. And that's why what we did was, no matter what kind of capabilities you wanted, we've kind of just simplified the whole licensing. We've created 2 bundles. One is an Essentials bundle, one is a Premier bundle. Premier bundle includes all these features, SIM, UBA, Threat Intel Management, and SOAR. And then that's the Premier bundle. And then you've got an Essential bundle, which is just the SIM and the Threat Intel Management. So the fact is, depending on how you want to mature on the SOC journey, you can choose these bundles and then grow along your SOC journey. That's one major thing that we've done. The second that we've done is to unify the whole the interface for an analyst. The SIM UI is the same as the Yuba UI, is the same as the SOAR UI. He can actually perform all the functions on one single UI without having to jump through multiple UIs, right? So you can do complete threat detection, investigation, and response, all of it through one single UI without having to jump through. So the SIM is called Splunk Enterprise Security that allows you to build all the SIM capabilities that you need. You know, we give you about 1,800, which stands at about 1,900 out-of-the-box correlation rules. You can create your own correlation rules, deploy them, all of that capabilities that are available. The other thing that we've launched, and I'm only going to touch upon the ones that say new there. These are new capabilities that we are bringing up over the next course of 2-3 months. One that we've done is we've actually acquired a company called Snap Attack. Snap Attack predominantly is what we are now built into the SIM. It's called Detection Studio. What it allows you to do is, based on the data that is coming in, it tells you, hey, based on this data, these are the correlation rules you need to deploy. These are the MITRE tactics and techniques that it actually helps you cover. And if you already have some rules enabled, it will say that you've got so many rules enabled, so many of them are still not enabled. And all of this is going to be driven with AI. So you can actually ask questions, it will give you answers back again, right? So this is something that we're launching new. The other capabilities that we've launched, as I said, integrated UI interface for all of that, embedded SOAR and case management into the same UI, and embedded UEBA capabilities into the same platform, right? Previously, our UEBA is to run separately, but now everything is all integrated into one single platform, and this is available to you as of today. On the AI front, to accelerate security operations, we have launched AI assistants for doing threat hunting. So if you don't know the threat hunting language of Splunk, you can just simply say, hey, how do I hunt for this specific thing? And it'll actually give you an output. You just cut, copy, paste it, modify it, and run it, right? So AI assistants for running threat hunting queries, and then AI assistants on the SIM to summarize findings, right? So if an alert is triggered, you just say, hey, can you summarize this alert for me? And it'll tell you, yeah, this alert was basically this source tried to attack this destination, and it'll give you a whole summary of it, right? We are also going to launch agentic AI agents that will allow you to do triage, meaning look at past tags of whether that incident was a false positive or a true positive, and based on which give you recommendations saying that, hey, something like this occurred in the past, you actually marked it as false positive. Do you want me to mark it as false positive again? So triage agents is something that we're launching. The other one is actually creating automated playbooks for responses. So, you want to say, hey, if a DOS, can you create a playbook for a DDoS attack? And it'll actually go ahead and create a playbook for you, right? So that's something that we're launching. And then we're also bringing something called as autonomous response agents, which will basically go ahead and then execute certain queries based on the playbooks that you've created. So all of these AI capabilities is something that we are also launching over the course of next 2 to 3 months, right? So for some customers that are already using these capabilities, there's already been a certain set of impact that they've seen with AI on Splunk. So these are all the capabilities that we've seen. And why do customers still choose Splunk when you've got that whole space of SIEM is getting crowded, and I'll come to that. One is, of course, of all the capabilities that I spoke about, the platform differentiation, the data management and federation capabilities, having our own collectors in place that give you those capabilities of data management and federation. But not only that, we've been in the Gartner's Leaders Quadrant for over 11 years in a row now, right? We've not dropped. We've been there. We've shown strong execution on the Gartner's Leader Quadrant. And not only that, across all the 3 Gartner critical capabilities of a SIM, which is predominantly out-of-the-box SIM capabilities, customizable SIM capabilities, and TDIR capabilities, Splunk has been ranked the #1 tool. This is the latest report, 2025 report that came out in July-October timeframe, right? So Splunk is something that's ranked the #1 tool across, so we're still maintaining this. And as Chathura said, it's not just Splunk in the security space, but Splunk is also a leader on the IT operations or the observability space, right? So it's the only platform that's ranked a leader in Gartner's quadrant across both these spaces. And apart from, of course, Gartner, there are many other that recognize us. We still hold the largest market share as per IDC. You've got Forrester that still basically ranks us, and we've been recognized by a lot more other vendors in terms of our capabilities. So with that, I just wanted to go ahead and pause. I will be back from an observability for AI perspective, which is going to be my last topic for today. Hope you found all of this informative till now. I'll hand it over to Gayan from NCINGA just to run through what NCINGA does on the AI SecOps front, and then I'll be back for observability. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vasant. So as Vasant said, he will be back to discuss the observability side of things. But now we need to first also look into the human element of this whole equation, right? Now, as we've heard, the technology available to us today is more cutting edge than ever. At NCINGA, we have been at the forefront of this evolution, bringing deep expertise to running, managing, and establishing SOCs both locally and globally. Our footprint now spans across diverse sectors, including banking, finance, education, food industry, as well as the military and government. In fact, that expertise has allowed us to expand our SOC operations far beyond Sri Lanka, establishing a strong presence in Bangladesh and Australia. However, as we implement these high-level AI-driven operations, a critical question arises. With such advanced technology in play, what happens to the human pillar of the SOC? Is the human element becoming obsolete, or is its role simply being redefined? To provide an insight into where the human stands in this new era and why they remain an indispensable asset, even if their role has shifted from legacy requirements, please welcome our next speaker. He is a senior cybersecurity leader with over 15 years of experience advising and delivering security strategy across complex enterprise and regulated environments in Australia, Singapore, the UK, and Sri Lanka. Currently serving as the Vice President for Cybersecurity Operations in NCINGA, establishing and leading managed security and SOC operations in both Sri Lanka and Australia, he works at the intersection of technology, risk, and business outcomes, guiding organizations through SIM, SOC, and cyber transformations at scale. Holding CISSP, CISM, and CISO certifications, his background spans telecommunication, manufacturing, and global enterprise, making him a trusted voice in translating cyber risk into executive-level decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Gayan Sahabandu.
I promise you this will be a very quick session, so bear with me. I'm going to run a couple of slides, that's all. Right, so Vasant happened to mention the evolution of AI SIM era, right, and what it can do, what it can deliver. With this, the question is, you might ask, okay, if the AI SIM can drive everything, is it relevant to have a SOC analysis right now? That's the question anyone would have in a current perspective. So I'm here to show you the other perspective of running a SOC operation in an AI-based SIM era. Now, before AI-based SIM operation came into the picture, regardless of any SIM that you run in a SOC operation, there are 5 key elements any SOC analyst should answer when there's an alert. We call this as the 5 Ws. Who, where, when, how, why, right? And I remember like a long time back, we spent awful lot of time, figuring out and trying to find answers for these specific questions. Now, while we get busy trying to find this answer, remember, in the back end, we are obliged to respond to an incident within a given SLA. We call this as MTDD and MTDR, mean time to detect and mean time to respond. Now, the sooner we detect, the swifter we respond, and that will lead to lesser business impact, right? Now, with the AI-based SIM era, that information, those 5 answers being processed and given at our fingertips to make a quick decision. The outcome is we can actually respond faster. These are pragmatic use cases that I'm talking about. If we have spent like 5 minutes trying to figure out this answer, now you will have this answer within about a minute. And that will actually lead to in-depth analysis of a SOC analyst. Just like Vasant said, just because the AI prompt these answers, it does not mean that we stop and just start responding to the incident or just start alerting the client. Now remember, before I talk about what's the advantage of this side, number one requirement of any client who would outsource the SOC operation is the ease of burden of taking care of alerts, incidents, and having to keep a close eye 24/7 in what is happening in our environment. Basically, I don't want that headache. You take care of the headache so I can focus on the business. Now imagine this. If we actually escalate an incident via a ticket and find out to be a false positive, and you having to wake up at the middle of the night and having to actually respond to the incident, because ultimately you are accountable and responsible for your business. Now, if there's a ticket, that means there's an incident, ongoing incident. And let's say you actually woke up in the middle of the night and you respond to the incident, and it happens to be a false positive. Now, how do you feel about your outsourced corporation? Do you feel like you are running an efficient cybersecurity program inside your organization? You feel like, no, I need proper streamline. I need the actual incident to be calm. What happens is, if you keep on doing that, and I can ask from any client who's actually running the cybersecurity program inside their organization, in a while, when you keep on getting these alerts, and if it find out to be false positive, you actually tend to turn a blind eye as well. Now, the flip side is, this will be a cry-wolf situation as well. The moment that you turn a blind eye, it actually can be an incident. And then you are answerable to everyone, and say, like, why did you not respond to this incident? And that's why this is very important. When we escalate an incident as a ticket, it has to be accurate, and it has to be actionable. When the AI gives us this information, it allows us to carry out an in-depth analysis and submit the ticket. It's not about the ticket, it's the incident, and what we're expecting is to close off the incident, so then there is less business impact. So your efficiency will increase. Definitely, and we have witnessed this with the emerge of AI, the efficiency of running a SOC operation has increased. Now, second of all, recalling query language under pressure. Now, imagine this, you are under attack, you are under duress, and you are having to investigate and respond to this incident, and everyone is coming and asking you what is happening. And someone from the cybersecurity team saying, okay, there are some clues. This intruder has logged in through our Wi-Fi, logged into a test server, and then escalate privileges to domain control. Now, if you are to find that, and if you are to write a query language to that, just imagine you are under pressure, and you need to write this specific query language. I bet even if you know, you'll tend to forget it because you are under pressure. Because when you are, dealing with a cyber incident, it's not like you're dealing with other IT, downtime operation. There are so much of pressure coming from the business, the legal standpoint, even the HR will keep on asking questions, because I'm quite sure that you are responsible and you are answerable to your own business. Now, this is why, with the image of natural language, you can actually type what I've just told you. Find me residue and artifacts of person who have logged in through a Wi-Fi within this time span, and access this test server. You can simply type the test server name, and it will actually give you the prompt. Okay, these are the findings. So this will lead to actually quick. Sorry about that. This will actually lead to a quick investigation. Now, the business outcome is it will lead to lesser business impact. Remember, time is of essence. Now, if you can respond, if you can find out within 5 minutes' time, just imagine the rate that a client can respond and actually nullify the the incident from spanning throughout. Third use case. Now, before AI came into picture, SOC analysts spent quite a lot of time, collecting intel from multiple sources. Like they used to go to the open web and find if there's a a lurking incident happening around the world in this region, and this will actually take a lot of time, and actually it will decrease the efficiency rate of SOC operation as well. It's not directly impacting to the client, but it is impacting to the SOC operation, also SOC operation. But with emerge of AI, the AI actually does that for us. It will actually replace multi-source research, and it will find information from multiple threat intels and give you the prompt. These are the findings of multiple sources. Now, with that finding, what the SOC analyst can do to improve the response, improve the intelligence of the SOC analyst actually can go and validate whether these inputs are relevant to the client environment. If it is not relevant, there is no point of the SOC is actually alerting the client, because again, it will lead to clients being unhappy of even the threat intel that they have updated. I mean, initially the client will thank us, but I have understood, like in the end, it will say, it's better not to send these responses because it's not relevant to us. So the business use case is, since we are getting this information at our fingertips, it will lead for the SOC analyst to actually look whether this is relevant to the client. And that's actually something the human can do, because based on the client's environment or the sector, it tends to change. And this is where the value addition comes from the human aspect. Moving on. Now, I've mentioned how the AI has actually helped the human-centric SOC analyst to run the SOC operation efficient. And let's have a look at the other side as well. Now, if you take a look at your risk appetite in any organization, these tend to vary. If one bank is having a risk appetite score of 10, it may not be relevant to the adjacent bank. And even within a let's say BFI sector or a military sector, even if you have a risk appetite of 10, or I'm just scaling it out, these tend to change based on your business context. And even your threat threshold tend to vary. And sometimes we are on red alert and say, okay, we suspect there is a dormant threat happening, we need to be on alert. So the threat alert increases. Now, based on the requirement of the environment, the AI may be blindsided, because it's a fluctuation and you can't even predict. There is no bell curve for that. And that's why the human aspect come into play. And when we actually respond to an incident in this aspect, we actually carry out an impact assessment based on the business requirement. If the business requirement is the risk appetite score is this, and the threat threshold has increased, we actually respond to the impact assessment based on what I mentioned here, as well as the other consideration that we have to look is what are the compliance and regulatory requirements this client has. And it can be vary from one to another. So for Military base, it's different. In BFI sector, of course, the example is CBSL guideline. And when you are like responding to any sort of incident, CBSL has given the guideline, this is how you should respond, and this is the method that you need to carry out. Now imagine when you receive a report that actually give you the heads up, that actually give you the artifact in order to be compliant in one go. It will make your life easier. And as we all know, responding to an incident and actually nullifying the incident is half of the battle. The other half is, now we are all answerable. We are answerable for our clients, board members, stakeholders as well. Now they keep on asking these questions. What happened? What's the root cause? And what measures have we taken place to ensure that this will not occur? So this has to be reported in a way, this has to be articulated in a way in a report, risk report. So now at NCINGA, when we are providing a risk report, we are actually aligning that to the business requirements and other the compliance requirement of the client. The positive side is, so then you have better business alignment to the report that you are receiving from the SOC side. Now, if you can just relate to your own SOC report that you have received, imagine this. You are answerable to your board members, and they are asking for specific information, and you are generating a report from your SIM. And that happens to be too technical, which your board members know, your stakeholders will understand. Remember this, now with the emerge of AI, it will give you all the information that you require if you type the correct information. But if you don't know what you're looking for, the final business outcome is not what you're looking for. And that actually leads to decrease in efficiency, and it's not even aligning to the business as well. Now finally, the AI actually provides expedite universal threat intel information. This is good because this is processing at petabyte speed, and it scans through the whole entire network for that. Now with that, what a SOC analyst is supposed to do is capture that information, piggyback on that, and actually do a dark web search as well. What is happening in the dark web related to this incident? What does the dark web say? Because that's where the magic happens as well. Just like in the open web, there is a whole heap of things happening at the dark web. And if the SOC analyst or the SOC operation does not concentrate on the dark web, you're missing out on a whole bunch of information. And so what we now do is, once we get this threat intel report, we actually validate that from the dark web as well and correlate whether this is relevant to this client. Is this group of actors actually targeting our client base? Or is it relevant? If it is relevant, yes, of course, we generate and we alert the client. Again, the outcome is when we raise an incident, it is actually relevant to the client. And then in return, when client receives an alert or a ticket or even a phone call from us, they know we better stop doing what we are doing and respond to this. Because what they inform is relevant to us. Moving on, this is sort of like the maturity journey where the SOC analyst should concentrate, and if your SOC analyst is not concentrating on, this is sort of like a realignment that you can do. During initial phase of any AI-driven SIM with the ML capability, initially during the discovery stage, the AI will prompt so many inputs and say, I find this as an anomaly. Is this actually an anomaly, or is this a false positive? And imagine if you don't have a human to respond to this. And what happens is, if the SOC analyst is not doing the work he's supposed to do and keep on ticketing every prompt that the AI is generating, again, the efficiency goes down. And the client and the internal SOC operation or internal cybersecurity program of the client will go down as well. That's why the SOC analyst needs to be aware of what is my client's context, what is my client's business requirement, and based on that, it has to feed the relevant information to the AI, so then the AI will take over and do its bits afterwards. This is based on the initial stage. Now, if you take the intermediate stage, middle stage, if you are in the middle stage, you have to make sure, even Vasant happened to mention on this, fine-tuning your rules and dashboard of the SIM environment. Now, in an AI-based SIM, it will give its own rules. It will generate its own dashboard. Then the SOC analysis requirement or the responsibility is, can I further fine-tune these rules and dashboard and see whether this is relevant to the client, or how can I give something more to the client in order to be efficient? Because once you fine-tune these rules and dashboard, it will lead to better detection, MTDD. And in the final stage or beyond, mind you, it does not mean that you stop doing what you're doing. This is a life cycle. This will keep on happening. But let's say you have a mature SOC environment. In the final stage, what the SOC analyst is now supposed to do is, they need to carry out proactive threat hunting, and threat hunting should not stop. Now, at NCINGA, we are moving away from this layered architecture from L1 to L3 SOC analysts. We actually trying to establish a flat architecture with expertise, like threat hunters, incident responders, and so on and so forth. And so the threat hunters, so this is important. Let's say if some dormant threats are missing from the rules and the dashboard of the SIM, this is where the value addition comes from the SOC analyst and say, okay, look, we have these rules, we have this detection capability in our MITRE framework, but we feel like this is missing. Let's add this rule and further fine tune, and we have better visibility then. And this will actually lead to MTTR, that's mean time to respond. Because if we have proper detection, that leads to responding to an incident quite quickly. And finally, streamline the incident response procedure. Now, this is not the incident response procedure of the so-called the internal cybersecurity team of any organization. I'm talking about the organization-wide incident response team. First of all, do you have an incident response plan that when the cybersecurity team alerts the IT team, and from the IT team to legal team to HR team to CEO, how would they respond to the incident? Who would address the media? Who would address the client's concern? Do you have an incident response procedure like that? And if you do, what are the information that you want to activate this incident response procedure? And that has to reflect back on your SIM dashboard, because the SIM dashboard is the initiator for any threat. And so there has to be a better alignment between your organization incident response team and what you actually get extracting out of your SIM dashboard. Mind you, with the AI-based environment, whatever we look, and it will give you a very quick response because it's capable of doing that. It's just that we need to know what to ask from the SIM dashboard. Finally, just to conclude, our objective is this: to streamline the efficiency of the cybersecurity program of the client. Because when the cybersecurity program of the client is running smoothly, that will lead to better outcome. And by doing so, our objective is not to detect and respond. Our objective for the client is their business continuity. Even if we detect an incident sooner, even if we respond to an incident, but the business is not continuing, then our objective has failed. So our objective remains on the business continuity by utilizing these features and procedures. That will lead to addressing the direct business risk. So then the better outcome is finally, again, the business continuity. With that being said, I would like to conclude my session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gayan, for that vital reminder that technology is only as powerful as the people who steer it. Now, to round out our technical deep dive, we return to the stage Mr. Vasant Kumar. Having discussed the security side of the coin, he will now lead us into the world of observability, showing us how these tools turn thousands of alerts into a single clear narrative and actionable insight. Vasant, over to you.
Yeah, I'm back, and I stand between you and drinks and dinner, but I promise I'll keep it short, right? So I spoke this in the initial slide when I was talking about digital resilience. I touched a lot upon observability. What I'm just going to quickly talk about is what does Splunk do in that observability space, because I spoke about Splunk Observability Cloud, Splunk App Dynamics, but what are the capabilities that actually exist there, right? And the reason observability is all of a sudden gaining importance in today's world is predominantly because of the way AI is rewriting all the rules, right? I spoke about vibe coding. Sundar Pichai has extensively spoken about how Google uses vibe coding. The fact of the matter here is that it has its own advantages, it has its own disadvantages of being using AI to write code. But the fact is, it's going to do what it has to do, and then you're going to have, of course, AI agents that are going to start doing troubleshooting, and then all the new AI apps are going to require more and more different forms of telemetry. Telemetry meaning data points that you can actually ingest to look at the logs that are generated. The complexity and despite all the promises that basically AI tries to bring in, the digital systems as of today are still reactive. And I spoke about this, right? One small change done by your app developer that pushes out a mobile app, and overnight you start having chaos, and then you have the network team, IT team, security team, all of them in a room, and then trying to quarrel about it. So that's one of the key areas, but also in terms of business context, right? And I spoke about that whole service mapping. The whole objective is when you want to what's the impact of, someone comes running into the room and says, oh, we've got an outage on our RAID controller on the SAN. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the CIO and the CEO is not bothered about why the RAID controller failed, but they are bothered about the impact of that RAID controller. Is it going to impact my mobile banking? Is it going to impact my day-to-day operations? Is it going to impact my customer experience? And that's the whole business context that we want to drive with when we talk about observability, right? And the reason why observability is necessary for all organizations is predominantly because of these are the critical KPIs that it allows you to actually accelerate when you try to look at fixing and identifying, like the mean time to identify a problem, the mean time to recover from the problem, the mean time to detect MTTD, MTTR, and MTTI, and you've heard of this throughout the day today. So what does Splunk offer from its end-to-end observability portfolio? There's a whole stream of products end-to-end, from the fact that you can actually monitor application performance, to you can monitor your infrastructure, to monitoring digital experience, to business insights, to application security, which comes from Cisco Kenna, and then using observability for AI. Very interestingly is that all the new NVIDIA GPU servers that are shipped from Cisco calls them AI pods. All the AI pods have got the Splunk observability agent already pre-deployed in them. So it just you just deploy the Cisco AI servers, it connects to the observability cloud, and then it tells you how your AI performance is doing. How many tokens are you using? What is the token performance experience? All of that. And then last but not the least, network observability. So all these capabilities combined together. And as I told you, you have your phone. One app that I showed you before Gayan came on stage was the security. The other app is the AI ops, right? Which basically allows you to bring all these various data sets into a single platform and then perform all the artificial intelligence on your IT operations. So this is something that Splunk provides end-to-end in its observability space. And the key objective is to be able to build a leading observability practice within your enterprises with much more deeper context to what what prioritizes and what matters to you the most from a business context perspective, drive the MTTI and the MTTD and an MTTR, and then of course make it much more predictable to you from a federation capability. As I said, ingest what you want, don't ingest what you will want, keep it on low cost storage, right? So through the next 3 slides, what are you going to see is in terms of all the customers that actually use Splunk. And I showed that one slider, but there are a lot of customers that actually use Splunk on the observability space, in terms of driving deeper business context, earlier detection, as well as, using that federated searches in terms of managing your predictable pricing, right? Again, with just like the security piece of it, the observability piece also has proven itself, been a leader in the Gartner quadrant, IDC, all of that. And there are, in the observability space, we have certain other third-party vendors that actually go ahead and rate us, unlike the security part of it. But yes, we've got all those credits to ourselves. So on your complete end-to-end observability practice journey, you can rely on Splunk to completely deliver all of these use cases that you see on the screen end to end, may it be from an application, infrastructure, network, AI, ready infrastructure, whatever you want to deploy, Splunk can provide you a complete end-to-end observability context. So with that, I thank you so much for your patience. I promise it will be a short one, and I will be around. Please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you, Vasant. So now that we have both speakers up front a bit, we would now like to open for Q&A, because we have covered a lot of aspects today in today's sessions, and I am sure you all have a lot of questions that you want to ask on these strategies, as well as based on your environments. So please feel free to raise your hand if you have a question for any of the speakers tonight, and we will hand over a mic to you so you can ask. Okay, so I think it seems like our speakers have been incredibly thorough in their sessions tonight. So that's a great sign. But so we will conclude the Q&A session. However, if you have any queries that you want to take offline, or if you want to separately discuss directly with the team, we have the Splunk team as well as the NCINGA team available to clarify any clarifications or queries that you have. So now we have come to the end of today's proceedings. So to formally wrap up today's proceedings and share final thoughts, I would like to invite Vajra Singha, NCINGA's Group Managing Director, to the stage for the closing and thanking note.
Thank you, Sharode. So you all witnessed today the pictures by our 3 speakers. Firstly, Chathura speaking about the customer experience, and Vasant doing the most of the stuff, covering the observability and the security stack, and also Gayan touching an important concept, the business continuity. So all what we presented here, talked about here, everything speaks about your business continuity. So now, when the topic is business continuity and the further discussions that you want to have with the Cisco team, with the NCINGA team, I must paint some picture why Cisco selected NCINGA for this important technology segment, and why NCINGA is suitable to address your mission critical business applications take on the mission critical problems, and how do we suit for this kind of an activity. So my duty is to give you a glimpse of the big mission that NCINGA has taken on. So we now have built a large technology ecosystem. When you say NCINGA, it's an ecosystem of companies, technologists that we empower the entrepreneurs, the new tech-savvy entrepreneurs to join with us and create an entity that can take on the new age technology challenges. So primarily, our focus is on cloud, AI and data, cybersecurity, API level integrations, and Jitendra's team is working on the critical banking applications, and with our venture capital arm, NVentures, gathering another set of fintech and fintech adjacent group of young entrepreneurs. There are few known names in this market like Shopbook, Simplebook, you might have heard, MintPay, and Nanosoft. These are all fintech companies, and recently you might have come across in social media, you might have heard about WealthOS being acquired by the world's largest bank, JP Morgan. So that WealthOS company had been part of NCINGA's NVenture, the venture capital arm. So this is what we are doing, and as Chathura said at the initial session, we have taken our engineers to global markets, and with that experience, we are coming back and sharing those learnings and engagements with you. So this is why we believe that we are able to take on any challenge that you have to ensure your business continuity. So with that thought, I would like to end this session and especially thanking all of you all accepting our invitation and taking time off to attend our session today. And again, big thank you to Gayatri and the NCINGA team for pulling another great session, right, in front of you. So thank you, Gayatri and the team. And last, of course, but not least, Cisco team. A huge team has come here today, and I heard from Vasant that the Splunk team who we are closely associating in India is as large as a 35-member team in India. So that power is there to support you all with this technology adoption. I happen to work closely with one of the customers who bought Splunk, and I saw the Splunk engineering sits in US, and we got access to US BU for certain enhancements that the customer wanted to do. So this is the power of the team that you have got associated with. So please join with us for networking, drinks and dinner, and engage with the Cisco and NCINGA teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Vajra.